Hi everybody and welcome to Photomikes Garage. Today we're going to do an oil change on the FRS. Okay, oil change on a car, no big deal. Well, why am I even making a video about this? I don't know. It is too simple, right? But not everybody does oil changes. I've been doing oil changes for decades on different cars. But for some people, it's the first time. And a lot of people who own FRSs and 86 and BRZs, they're young guys, young girls, who might be doing their oil change for the first time. So I thought I'd give a quick little glimpse into how I do it. Not necessarily always the best way, but this is how I do it. And if it helps you out, good. First step is you can see the motor is running. The motor is running because I am warming up the engine. That lowers the viscosity of the oil, makes the oil flow better, so that it will, when you open the drain or open the crankcase, the oil will flow out faster and you'll get all the old oil out and leave room for all the new oil. Now I believe the first oil change, if you have a new 86, is around 5,000 kilometers, and I do mine around every, say, 15,000 kilometers. Everyone has a different idea of how often you should do it, but that's how I do mine. So today I'm going to do the oil change. Oh, check this out. My electric supercharger. Yeah, it's still on the car. It's still working good. Still giving me lots of power. A lot of people don't believe it works, but yes, it does work. But more on that some other video. Right now, oil change time. Okay, the first step to do oil change, you've got to raise the front of the car up so you can get access underneath. However, I've noticed that since I've added my new side sills, I cannot fit my hydraulic jack underneath the car. This is the first time I've had an oil change done since I put on the new side sills. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to actually run the car up on some blocks of wood to get it up high enough to get the jack underneath. Okay, now that we're up on wooden blocks, the jack will fit in. And of course, jack stands always for safety. Okay, so the Scion FRS, Toyota 86, Subaru BRZ all have easy access here, which is great about this car. Oil filter's right on top and the oil filler cap is right here. Easy access. So what I do first before I drain the oil, I loosen this off to allow air pressure to get inside. That will allow the oil to flow a little bit faster once we open up the bolt on the oil pan. Okay, this is your oil pan bolt. We're going to loosen this and remove this, and all the oil is going to come out. Now, the oil has a very low viscosity on modern cars. 0 weight 20 for this car, I believe. So the oil comes out in a rush. You have to be prepared, and you have to have a fairly large container ready for the oil. So this is a 14 millimeter bolt, and it's not put on with super high torque, so it should come off fairly easily with a ratchet. Okay, I've broken it loose initially with the wrench, and now the bolt can be taken out by hand. Now you want to try and keep your hand out of the way, but you also want to keep pressure on the bolt all the way until the last thread so that it doesn't leak out too much. And then when you take the bolt out, it's going to come out with a rush. Okay. Now I'm trying to position the oil container for my used oil here, because this oil will come out in a rush out to about maybe here, and then as it starts draining, the flow will move back towards this way. So you might have to move the whole container back down that way. But anyway, let's give this a go. Okay, I undid it. I missed the actual dramatic moment when it started to come out, but as you can see, this is very black oil. I think I should have changed the oil a little bit sooner. It's coming out in a rush. Now my hand did get a little bit messy. There's no way to avoid it. If you're gonna change your oil, you will get oil on yourself. You will make some mess. It's almost impossible to avoid. As you can see, I've just moved the container a little bit closer. It comes out very fast, so it's almost all out. We're gonna let that sit and it'll keep dribbling out until it's down to drops, and then we can put the bolt back in with a new washer. So what you want to do is clean all the oil off the oil pan bolt. Make sure there's no nicks or anything else. And you can see there's a crush washer right here. This must be replaced. These are only meant to be used one time. So when you buy oil filters from your dealership, also get the crush washers at the same time. And this is what I have from my local dealer. I've got the factory oil filters. Oh, these are spark plugs for another video. Okay, so this is basically what you need. You need an oil filter from your dealer. Now, of course, you can use other oil filters if you wish, but I prefer to use the factory oil filters. And as you can see, there is the part number for this particular one from Toyota. And of course, you have to have the crush washer. And there's the part number for that as well. So the oil is drained a while, it's just down to drip, so we're going to put the oil pan bolt back in. But first, we're going to remove this old oil filter. Okay, as you can see, this is a Motor Master oil filter. I put this on while I was on the road, didn't have time to go to the factory, and I really would rather have the factory one, so I'm going to replace this with a factory one after I take this off. Now these oil filters aren't put on too tight. They're actually supposed to be put on just hand tight, and so you should be able to use your hands to actually get it off. And of course, if you can't use your hands, then you can always use a oil filter remover that you can get from any store around, but I'm going to try using my massive, powerful hands. Okay, so that's coming right off. Once I take this off, I'll put it in a plastic bag and take it to the recycling station, along with the oil, of course. Okay, so there you can see that the old oil filter is off. Now you can clean up this area a little bit, but what you don't want to do is get some of the grit that's accumulated on the outside into your inner areas. So be very careful. I would just clean this area here and leave this alone at this point. You don't want to get this grit around here. So I've just cleaned up the mating surfaces where the oil filter gasket's going to seal, which is right here. I haven't bothered with the outside edges at this point. And I've also cleaned the gasket mating surfaces for the oil filler cap as well. Okay, it's always a good idea to lubricate this ring. Now this one comes pre-lubricated from the factory, which is pretty good, but you can always add a bit more oil on here before you put it on. Okay, our factory oil filter goes back on. It will screw right back on here. Twist it until it's tight. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going until... that's pretty tight. That's hand tight. The Toyota symbol is in the front, which is cool. There we go. Filter's on. That's all you gotta do. Easy peasy. Okay, let's put on the oil pan bolt. There's the new crush washer. There's the old crush washer. You can see that the old crush washer is thinner. It's done its job. It's been crushed. That's why you can't use it again. You've got to use a new crush washer. Okay, our bolt is clean. New crush washer. On it goes. We're good to go. Oh, one more thing, a small detail, but usually with a crush washer, the flat side goes up against the bolt. You can see there's a slightly rounded side and of course the flat side. The flat side usually goes towards the bolt, and that will allow for a very good seal. We just got a few drips coming out. I'm going to put the bolt back in now. Basically 99.9% of the oil is out. So now it's time to put the bolt back in. And you put it back in, you start it by hand. Like I said, we're going to start this by hand so that we don't cross thread these bolts. That's a very important thing. You don't want to do that. So you got to make sure that when you put it in that it goes in smoothly, which this one appears to be going in no problem smoothly. And there we go. So it's down to the crush washer. Now you've got to tighten it up. Now you tighten it up with your, just wipe off some of the excess oil, a few drips around here. Okay, very good. Now you want to wipe this surface really clean here of any oil so that if there is any leaks after you start the car, after the oil's back in the car, you'll be able to see the leak. Okay. We're going to tighten this up a bit. And you can feel the crush washer collapsing. It's collapsed, and now we're at the tightening point. And we tighten, not too tight. Now, the exact foot-pounds, I'm not sure right now. If I find out, I'll put it in the link below. Sorry, I won't put a link below. I'll just put it below. But you don't wail on it. You don't go super tight. You don't put all your force into this because you can strip the threads out. You don't want to do that. You just want to get the crush washer crushed, and then just nice and snug after that, you should be fine to go. You always got to do this. You always got to remember to do things in a proper way. You've got to have your crankshaft bolt in and tight. You got to have your new oil filter spun on and tight. Now you must remember to put your oil in, because if you start the car right now without any oil in it, you will destroy your motor, and you don't want to do that. So it's very important to put the oil in the car. Okay, this car requires full synthetic oil, 0 weight 20. You'll require a small funnel just to make this job a little bit easier. And then the oil goes in the car. Now before you put all your oil in, say about 4.5 liters, maybe check below to make sure you have no obvious leaks. Right now, most likely you won't have any leaks at all, so you should be fine. This is also a good time to start checking the dipstick to make sure that you're at the proper level. Now you wipe the old oil off the dipstick here. And I don't know if you can see here, but there's two marks. There's a little hole right here. Sorry. It's a little hole right here. That means that's your add mark. Okay, there's a little hole right here. That's your add mark. This is where it's full at this point. Let's see where we're at right now. Okay, so there's no oil yet at all. Also keep in mind that if your car is raised up at the front, your oil level is not quite accurate. Okay, according to my trusty owner's manual, it says that without a filter, this car will require 5.5 quarts, 5.2 liters, which is, since I'm in Canada, I'm thinking in liters. With a filter, it's 5.5 liters. Now, we just did a complete oil change with the change of an oil filter, so we require 5.5 liters. And of course, you do the final level checks with your dipstick. So I'm just looking at the bottle of oil I just put in the car. We got 5 liters of oil here, but we actually require 5.5 for this motor. So to actually do it right, you're going to have another liter of oil to actually do this correctly. So you've got to buy the jug of oil plus, say, a small liter of oil to actually get the job done. Luckily, I have some extra oil in the garage. Okay, quick check of the oil dipstick. As you can see right here, I don't know if you can see, but the oil level is right at the add mark. And the difference between the add mark and the full mark is 1 liter of oil, give or take. So we need about 1 more liter of oil, and then this car will be done. Okay, I put another almost a liter in. I'll do the final checks of the level of the oil when the car's on the ground. Right now we have to put the oil filler cap in and then check all bolts and everything else, and then start the car. How do you like my custom 86 oil filler cap? Pretty nice, eh? But it gets really hot because it's aluminum. Okay, before we start the car, let's do one more final check. Especially when you get older, you start forgetting things. I'm getting older, I'm starting to forget, so I gotta make sure I've done everything properly. Okay, we have new oil filter snug on, oil filler cap on. We have no leaks, and we have the oil pan bolt on and tight. So now we start the car. This is always kind of a nervous moment, even though I've done this many times and I'm pretty sure I've done everything correctly. But if I've made a mistake, that's very bad, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Let's start the car. Okay, so here we are inside the car. Now we'll just turn it on to $9.99. Sorry. We'll just turn it on to the run position just before the start position, and we'll have a look here. We see all the lights are on as they should be, including the oil light. Can you see that? Right. Now after we start the car, that light should go out very quickly. If it doesn't go out, you should immediately stop the car and recheck everything. But here we go. Okay, the light went out. The car's idling. We're gonna let it idle for a little bit, and then we're gonna check for any leaks underneath the car. Supercharger! Okay, underneath the car, you have to be careful not to touch anything hot. But as you can see, there is no leakage at all from the oil bolts so far. By the way, my front lip is standing up to the abuse really good so far. I have scraped it, but it is only on the bottom and doesn't show at all. I definitely have to be more careful with this, but so far, so good. Okay, let's take a look here. The oil filter, there's no oil coming out here. You gotta be careful, don't want to touch anything here, but there's no oil that is coming out that I can see. So that's looking good too. Okay, so everything is looking pretty good, but there's one more thing to do. Now, if you've ever had your oil changed at a Mr. Lube or Jiffy Lube or whatever, they always ask you after the oil change has been completed to rev the engine up to around 2,000 RPM for a short while. The reason for that is that puts the oiling system under some pressure, that puts the whole system under pressure, and if there is any oil leaks, they should show up at that point. So let's do that now in this car in my driveway. Okay, we got just over 2,000 RPM. We'll keep it there, a little bit higher, 25. Now again, we check for any oil leaks. At the filter, no sign of any oil leaks. And underneath the car, at the oil pan, there is no leaks. Okay. So basically the job is done. Just got to turn the car off, lower the car down, and do the final check of the oil level. Okay, the car is down, off the jack stands, flat on the ground. Let's check the oil level. So you clean it off first and then you put it back in to actually get an accurate level here. All the way in till it's seated. Then we pull it back up. Let's have a look. Okay, because the oil is brand new, it's very clear. So you probably can't see on the video, but it's right, let's see, it's slightly below the full mark. So I'm going to put in just a tiny bit more and we'll call it done. Okay, oil change is now completed. As you can see, there's no way that you can avoid the grease and the dirt. So if you don't like grease and dirt, don't do an oil change. It's unavoidable. But this went pretty smooth. I hope it helps anybody who's doing their first oil change on an FRS or for any car at all, of course. Anyway, so thanks for watching Photomikes Garage. I will see you next time.